Morning, afternoon, or evening. For the PressCorps, I'm Geoffrey Jennings. Here in the 71st conflict of the Foxhole War, it is day 100, the early morning hours of day 100, and things have reached a level we have not seen in quite a long time, potentially that we've never seen before here in the history of the Foxhole Wars. In those first 100 days, a total of 694,000 casualties have been suffered, combined from both the Wardens and the Colonials so far in this conflict. 361,000 collies and 333 Sievish soldiers dead from this war so far. All across the front line, fighting continues, embattled and embittered as war and weather continue to collide. In the western half of the Siva Valley conflict regions, winter weather advisories have been issued for Pharaonic Coast, Lochmore, Lynn of Mercy, Stone Cradle, Orbreaker Isles, and Fisherman's Row. Potentially we might issue one soon for Westgate, and we may upgrade that advisory to a watch as the snowstorm appears to be getting worse. Visibility has been reduced, and soldiers, personnel, and vehicles are in danger of being frozen. We'll continue to monitor the situation, as well as, perhaps most strategically important, tactically important, the potential freezing of oceans, shores, and rivers, water bodies potentially being frozen, allowing another dimension for infantry to work in, potentially circumventing a lot of defensive strategies so far. Meanwhile, in the east, that weather appears to be mirrored, as severe storm advisories have also been issued for Endless Shore, Marvin Hollow, Drowned Vale, Shackled Chasm, Allad's Bight, Tempest Island. And Tempest Island, potentially others beyond that, we'll have to confirm, but rain has been issued and mud becoming a problem, encumbering many troops who fight in the trenches, early trenches, rudimentary trenches that do not have solid flooring, as well as in the various mud patches where grass is not present. Traversing those surfaces will result in you being encumbered fairly quickly, in addition to reduced visibility. Well, we're going to focus in right now on one particular region, at least just from the map, which appears to have been the most even distribution of casualties so far between both sides, and that is, no surprise there, the Deadlands. The Deadlands, over 100,000 casualties have been suffered in this region alone. 55,000 and 54,700 casualties of Warden and Colonial casualties respectively have been suffered by both sides. They can't really get any more even than that, and it looks like the Colonials are eking out some progress as they fight not just out of abandoned ward but out of the plaza as well. I think it is safe to confirm that for the moment, from the reports that we've received, the Colonials have managed to secure the plaza, both safe houses and the hospital, under legionary control, and the Wardens currently fighting on the outskirts of the plaza itself being an extension of the abandoned ward sector. And the fighting now centered around the Pommel Annex and Callahan's Boot, outside of Callahan's Boot. However, meanwhile, in parallel fighting to the plaza, the Wardens have managed to gain a foothold across the bridge from Cal's Boot to Hope's Causeway, as renewed fighting outside of the pits, northeast of the pits, continues, or rather is reestablished, and the Colonials looking to try and defend that sector in an attempt to prevent any kind of flanking maneuver or further outbreak of the bottom half of their region there in the Deadlands. However, for quite some time now, in the past several months of fighting, Tarsal Pathway across the river and the western half of the region north of Liberation Point has been under Colonial control for quite some time. I'm not actually quite sure how far back, but it has been for several days, several dozens of days, and it appears that the line has been drawn about halfway between the Spine and Tarsal Pathway, more or less, with the Colonial line stopping more or less outside of Marrow Copse and the roads there outside of Mandible Crossroads. Meanwhile, the Warden line not too far outside of it. In any case, outside of the Deadlands, fighting continues apparent along the flanks at Marben Hollow, the border crossing there south of the Spit Rocks. Colonials have managed to punch through and are looking to try to reestablish themselves in that region, potentially near Loggerhead as well. On the opposite end of that spectrum is the peninsula southeast in the Linn of Mercy, as Wardens attempt to hold out against the Colonial assault at Prairie Bazaar. The town hall has been destroyed for at least several days. Meanwhile, Fort Duncan continues to hold for the Wardens, and if they cannot manage to recapture Prairie Bazaar or close out the Colonial advance from the border south, then they may be forced to fall back. The Wardens may be forced to fall back to Fort Duncan in an attempt to hold their foothold, their side of the river, their side of the bridge in that peninsula. That's our focus in around the Deadlands here so far, as the Colonials have more or less had control of the central city for over half of this war, I think we can safely say, and fighting continues more or less on the north end of the river with the occasional push into the pits. But that's about all we have for now. We'll bring you more reports as we get them across the front lines and as we get more reports from our correspondents, but for now that's what we'll give you. For the Press Corps, I'm Geoffrey Jennings. Let's take you back to the music.